Okay, everybody, we're back. Had some technical difficulties we had to work through, but we are back for another edition of In the Paint. I'm Dan Tanner. Wow, what a massive victory for the Nuggets this evening. Again, if you're just joining, had some technical difficulties I had to work through there, but we got it fixed and we are good to go and live. You can live stream us on our Altitude Sports Radio YouTube page, Twitter, twitch.tv/altitudesr, and feel free to comment. I will be showing those on the screen if I like to get your comments going, and we will be discussing the Nuggets' huge victory over the Toronto Raptors. I'm a little late tonight on the postgame show because I was doing our network postgame, halftime and postgame over on the radio station. So just got wrapped up with that and excited to talk about this huge Nuggets victory. There's so many things to get into with this game. I just want to start with how big of a victory this was just for like the morale of this Nuggets team right now, and how badly they needed this win. And it's funny because Jamal Murray was talking to Jason Kosmiski. He was our post game interview after the game, and Jamal told Kaz, like, we did not play well at all. We didn't deserve to win this game. And, there's a little bit of truth in that. Like, this was one of those games where it just didn't feel like the Nuggets deserved to win this game. But, that's just these types of games happen throughout the year. And sometimes you're on the winning end of games where you don't deserve them. And sometimes you're on the end of games where, you play really well and it just doesn't go your way. So tonight was just one of those matchups where the Nuggets, it felt like we're sort of just kind of grinding along throughout this game, but we're able to eke out a victory. So feel free to leave comments, questions, concerns. I've got a comment here from Scott who wants to weigh in. Peyton Watson is not developing, need him to grow up quickly or trade for him, trade him for someone who will provide more value. Yeah, Peyton hasn't looked great so far to start the season, to say the least. So, Scott, I'm with you there on that. In fact, tonight, he just played 15 minutes. He was 1 of 5 from the field, did hit all 4 of his free throws, finished with 6 points. But, I will say, really, it's kind of Peyton Watson and the bench just in general. Somebody who I have been pretty disappointed in so far this season, everybody, has been Dario Saric. This was a guy, you know, signed in the offseason to come over to this team to be the answer, finally, for the backup center position behind Nikola Jokic that really, to be honest, the Nuggets have been looking for since the departure of Mason Plumlee years and years and years ago. You brought in Boogie Cousins a couple years ago. That worked out okay. He was a Michael Malone guy, but it just didn't work out with Boogie here in Denver. DeAndre Jordan, I mean, I love DJ. I love what he's brought to this team, leadership wise, culture wise, locker room wise. The guy's like 40 years old. I mean, I know he's not that old, but he's one of those guys that is on the team because of his ability to keep the locker room together and, help develop the young guys on this team. And really, as far as like a player wise goes, I don't really see what purpose DeAndre Jordan has as far as on the basketball floor this year for the Nuggets. I'd be surprised if he gets 10 games this year, to be quite honest. But man, what a victory for the Nuggets. So really, it wasn't a great start. In fact, the Nuggets really needed to win this game tonight because they had not started 0-3 since the 2013 season, the pre-Jokic, pre-Michael Malone, pre-Jamal Murray era. That was the last time this team started 0-3. That was the Brian Shaw-led Denver Nuggets, was the last time that this team started a season 0-3. So it was obviously, massive for this team's psyche and morale, I think, to get the victory tonight. So it was good to see. I said before the game, I thought that this road trip really hit at a perfect time for Denver. They lose their first 2 games at home, a place where they have been absolutely dominant over the last 9 years in the Jokic era, where they have been one of the best home teams in all of the NBA. And you lose your first 2 home games, doesn't look great. The bench looks awful. Your offseason acquisitions in Russell Westbrook and Dario Saric haven't really played all that well. Although I thought Russell had a better game tonight. I mean, quite honestly, it would have been difficult for him to really replicate how bad of a game he had in the first 2. So, Russ goes for 9 points tonight on 3 of 7 shooting from the field in 18 minutes. I thought Russ did a much better job of like kind of just playing his game. My biggest issue with Russell Westbrook in the first 2 games was he was taking way too many threes. Now, he did take one tonight, and it was a wide open 3, and he barely drew iron. But okay. I mean, fine. You're wide open. Take 1 or 2 threes a game. And I kind of said that over the last couple of games. But what I really liked about Russell Westbrook tonight was he was really a hound dog on the defensive end. And, we saw tonight from Russell Westbrook, what we have been seeing over the years when he's been an opponent of the Denver Nuggets. He's an agitator. So there's a play late in the third quarter, I believe. Excuse me. No, it was the fourth quarter. So the Raptors were up 88-83. Scotty Barnes is driving to the hoop for a layup, and Russell Westbrook is trailing him, and he kind of grabs his arm and pulls it a little bit. He didn't yank it. He just sort of pulled his arm away, and Scotty Barnes falls to the floor. Well, chaos ensued. Scotty Barnes did not like that at all, and he was kind of getting up in Russell Westbrook's chili a little bit. He was. But Russ isn't going to back down. He started barking right back. Aaron Gordon, I will say, man, he went in there to defend Russell Westbrook like really quick. So to me, that showed that like Russ has already garnered the respect and the love of his teammates, because Aaron Gordon, I mean, he was there to defend Russell Westbrook like that. So that was really cool to see. I was very curious about how the momentum was going to switch after that incident in the fourth quarter. And like I said, at that point in the game, it was 88-83 Toronto. Now, Toronto did get a free throw out of that. They pushed the lead to 89-83. But I thought the Nuggets kind of took over the momentum at that point. I really did. And we've seen this team do this in the past. Now, maybe with some different personnel. I go back to the bubble. Paul Millsap gets into it. The Nuggets were down in the playoffs, and that anger that the Nuggets had just fueled them to a victory. That kind of reminded me of this. So I was really interested to see, just sort of how this team responded to that incident there in the fourth quarter. And I mean, they tied the game up. I mean, Jamal Murray, my goodness. Look, Jamal didn't have a great game, and he himself said that he didn't have a great game. The Nuggets didn't have a great game. But what I liked about Jamal's game tonight was he provided the scoring punch when the Nuggets needed it most. And we've seen that throughout Jamal's career, that he is that kind of player. And if you were watching the game tonight or listening on the radio, I got to tell you, Jamal Murray was gassed, especially by the end of this game. In fact, there was a moment, it was either at the end of the fourth quarter in overtime, where Nikola Jokic just proves his genius. So Joker, the Raptors score, ball out of bounds on the baseline. Joker's about to inbound the basketball. He sees Murray bent over at the waist at half court, huffing and puffing. What does Joker do? Joker complains to the refs that there's water on the court in front of him. Now, there may have been, I don't know, or sweat or whatever it was. There may have been. But Nikola Jokic did not do that just because there was some type of liquid on the floor. He did that on purpose because he knew Jamal Murray needed a breather. And it gave him about a 25, 30-second breather. And it helped. And the Nuggets go down on the other end. Jamal gets the ball, makes a great play, and the Nuggets get another bucket. So it really is just amazing to me to see Nikola Jokic playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. I mean, there's just so many instances of this happening, and we saw another example of that tonight. So again, feel free to comment on the stream here. We've got Mile High 303. Let me put this on the screen here. Mile High 303. Can you see us making trades for shooting? Right now, no, but I would definitely say that it's early. So this team does need shooting. They do. There's no doubt about that. Tonight, they shot the three ball pretty well, actually, though. I will say they were 9 of 20 for 45%. Now, here's the thing with those numbers tonight. And Kaz and I actually talked a little bit about this on the pregame show. Nikola Jokic took 12 3-point shots against the Clippers on Saturday in their loss. I mean, he made 7 of them. So you'll take that any game. But if Nikola Jokic is taking 12 3-pointers, that's not ideal for this offense. You don't want Nikola Jokic to have to jack up 12 3-point shot attempts. And really, a lot of those came in the second half because the Nuggets were down at that point. But the fact that Joker is coming out of the gates shooting the three ball so well, I think is sort of staving off the inevitable with the Nuggets shooting woes. Because like I said, they shoot 45% from three tonight. That's pretty good. I mean, you'll take that any game. 9 of 20 from beyond the arc for the Nuggets tonight. And, you know, they hold the Raptors to 10 of 35, 28.6%. Well, there's your ball game right there. But another concern kind of really popped up for me tonight, and it's been a theme throughout the year. In fact, I think the Nuggets had given up something like 92 paint points in the first 2.5 games. Toronto was dominating in the paint early in this game. When it was 53-47, Toronto in the second quarter, the Raptors already had 38 points in the paint. In fact, 12 of the Raptors' 14 field goals in the second quarter were all in the painted area. Now, why is this so concerning? Well, typically the Nuggets are one of the best paint defenses in the NBA, typically. So the fact that they have struggled so mightily in that area is a little bit concerning to me. That's where you need a guy like Dario Saric to really start to get things going and be a paint presence, especially when Nikola Jokic isn't on the floor. Because I mentioned, a lot of those paint points came in the second quarter. Well, who's not in there in the second quarter for the majority of that quarter? Well, it's Nikola Jokic. And as much guff as Joker gets as, just an average defender or whatever, by the way, he's not an average defender. He's an above average defender. All of the numbers would support that. He's not an elite defender, but he is a more than serviceable NBA painted area type of defender. His smarts, his hands, all of the combination of his skill set and his mind, all of that works towards him being a well above average NBA defender. But what I want to see is Dario Saric was getting cooked tonight in the paint, and he's not helping this team on the offensive end right now either. So biggest offseason acquisitions, like I said, and I'll keep harping on this, were Dario Saric and Russell Westbrook, but it's 3 games in. So how long are you, Nuggets Nation, willing to wait for these new guys / young guys that were already on the team? How long are you willing to wait to give this team a chance to really get a good grasp on what exactly are we looking at with this Denver Nuggets team? Who is this team this season? I have no idea yet. In fact, I was talking to some guys here at the station today, who are the Nuggets this year? I don't know yet. I don't think that question is even you're able to answer that question quite yet. I said around Thanksgiving. Around Thanksgiving, we'll start to have at least a foundation of an idea of who this team is. But My best guess right now is this is a team that starting unit is going to keep them in basketball games because they are one of the best starting units in the NBA, even with the loss of KCP. By the way, Christian Braun has been absolutely phenomenal so far to start the year. He was 6 of 11 shooting tonight, 4 of 4 from the line, made one of his 4 3-point attempts. That's okay. He'll continue to grow in that area. And quite honestly, that's not really what he's out there to do. Finished with 17 points and was a +8. So Christian Braun to start the season in his first 3 games, other than the 3-point shooting, he's given you everything KCP gave this team, other than the 40% clip shooting the 3. Now, Christian's like a 38% career 3-point shooter. So he has the ability to do that. I just worry about the consistency with Christian Braun's 3-point shooting over the course of a season. So we'll see where that goes. But as far as the starting 5 goes for this Nuggets team, man, they're just as good as they've been over the last couple of years, in my mind, at least so far to start the year. Because, and a lot of people will say, well, Michael Porter Jr. is not doing much for you at all. And he's not so far this year. But really, over the course of last regular season and really kind of into the playoffs, Michael wasn't that much better than he's shown over the first 3 games of the year. Now, he did have obviously some bigger games in the regular season. But, there's a lot of people I've talked to around the city that are big Nuggets fans that ask me a lot about Michael Porter Jr. and sort of what his role is with this team this year and really just sort of moving into the future of like, we might have to start having some uncomfortable conversations about MPJ is all I'll say. And write in the comments, I want to hear from you Nuggets fans, your thoughts on Michael Porter Jr. and would you ever entertain the idea of a trade involving MPJ? Now, sitting here right now today, I don't know what kind of value they would even get for MPJ. And I'm not saying this as like I have given up on Michael. I haven't. I still think he's an elite shooter. He can be an elite rebounder when he decides to do that. He had 9 rebounds tonight. Pretty good. I would like for him to average right around 10 rebounds a game. I think he's more than capable of doing that. But it is interesting to see a lot of fans around town just don't seem to be super happy with what Michael Porter Jr. has provided for this team, and especially with the money he's making. And I'll be the first to say he has not been good enough, plain and simple. He just hasn't. When you pay a guy like that, he needs to produce like at a way higher clip than he is right now, and he just hasn't been doing that. So that's a tough one. It is, because for me, the talent is still there. The potential, like, that's the other thing with MPJ, the potential. He's getting to a point in his career where we've seen enough from MPJ. Even after the back surgeries, and he has been healthy over the last couple of years, knocking on wood. That's been fantastic to see. But we've seen enough from Michael Porter Jr. now to sort of, and I said this last post-game show, maybe this just kind of is who he is at this point. Like, I don't know how much better Michael Porter Jr. is going to get. I just don't. I think he can get better, but the question really is how much better? How much better can he get? So if he's going to stay roughly the same to what he is right now, can the Nuggets win a championship with him as your starting small forward? Plain and simple, yes or no? I don't know. With the way he's playing right now, they can't. Not with how he's playing right now. And I said going into the season, MPJ, excuse me, needs to average 20 points a game this year. At least, for this team to be legitimate championship contenders, because of the salary cap restraints. And that is something that is just, I know a lot of Nuggets fans are frustrated by that, because it's like, You had the Spurs dynasty, the Lakers dynasty, the Warriors dynasty. Well, here comes the Nuggets dynasty, and the league changes their salary cap rules. Yeah, it sucks. It does. I'm right there with you, but it is what it is. So this is where this team is going to have to get really creative, and they're going to have to draft really well. And it sucks that Deron Holmes tore his Achilles over the summer. I know this team was really high on him to start the year. It just is what it is, and I still think he'll be a valuable piece for this team moving forward, but we'll see. He's not going to be here this year. So I know there's a lot of Nuggets fans out there wondering about what kind of changes do this team need to make in order, and we're talking championship here, okay? Like this is the standard. From here until Nikola Jokic retires, every move the team makes has to be with we're trying to win a championship in mind. From this point on, it has to be. So I'm open to viewing all options when it comes to how to make this team better. And entertaining a Michael Porter Jr. trade. And the only reason I bring that up is because, like I said, I've talked to a lot of people, friends, coworkers, people around the city. Everyone brings it up to me. Like I didn't float out the idea, hey, they should trade MPJ. A lot of people have asked me, should the team consider that? And again, it all depends on, first, what kind of value would you get for him? And second, you don't do it now. You wait until the trade, close to the trade deadline, close to March, because at that point you've really got a firm grasp on who this team is. And who knows? At that point in the season, maybe MPJ is producing at a much higher clip. He's helping this team, and boom, off we go. And then it's not even a conversation. But I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. Let's see here. There's a comment from a listener. I'm just happy we got the W, got the monkey off our back. Yeah, like I said earlier, the Nuggets needed this win desperately. And it sounds weird to say that because it's only 2 games that they lost. Like if they lose 2 games in a row in the middle of the season, nobody would have blinked an eye. But it was the first 2 games of the year, and it was the way they lost those games, not only at home. The offense stunk in the first 2 games, and the new acquisitions to this team just didn't look like they fit in very well. And I am still very suspect on how Russell Westbrook fits into this team and Dario Saric, to be perfectly honest. I liked the addition of Dario Saric over the offseason more than I did Russell Westbrook because the Nuggets have desperately needed a backup big to come in and tread water with the second unit when Nikola Jokic isn't on the floor. And Dario Saric has had a perfectly fine NBA career, and I do think he can help this team. But, man, I mean, he has given you next to nothing so far in these first 3 games. But, again, I'm going to reserve judgment for the most part until at least around Thanksgiving, until we start getting a little bit better of an idea of exactly who this team is and what these new additions provide. I will say Julian Strawther, I thought, was much, much better tonight. He played 22 minutes. He didn't get in much in the fourth quarter, didn't get in at all in overtime, which I get. He's a young player, and Coach Malone likes to ride the veterans in those situations. And it was the right call. It worked out. But I thought he played really well tonight overall. He was moving well. He was shooting the basketball well, 3 of 3 from the field, hit both of his 3-point attempts, finishes with 9 points, couple of rebounds. Julian Strawther, again, for me, is the absolute key to the bench unit this year for the Nuggets. And I'd probably throw Dario Saric in there as well, just because I can't understate how important I think it is for this Nuggets team to have a backup big that can come in and produce for the second unit. You don't want to run Nikola Jokic into the ground. Dario Saric needs to play better so that Coach Malone doesn't have to go back to the well of Nikola Jokic so early in basketball games. I mean, it really is just as simple as that. I said this before, but you want to not run your guys in the ground like Coach Malone said he did at the end of last year, and we saw that kind of how that played out in the Minnesota series. Well, the second unit, the reserves, they just have to play better. Plain and simple. You can't always rely in, game out on your starters to claw their way back into a game and will their way back into a game every single night. And that's what we saw tonight, quite honestly. I mean, like I said earlier, Jamal Murray was completely gassed. There's Steve Nelson walking around. But Jamal Murray was completely gassed by the end of this game. And Malone didn't take him out, by the way. Like, that's where a spot where I was like, oh man, I wonder if he's going to go throw Julian Strawther in here and give Jamal Murray a little bit of a break. That didn't happen. But they got the win. And you've got to wonder, at least I was wondering a little bit, Jamal always seems to be really juiced up when he's back in Canada, his home country. And he was. And in fact, that first quarter, oh my gosh. I mean, I thought Jamal came out of the gate with his hair on fire. He was everywhere in that first quarter, diving for loose balls, playing really good defense. But you could tell, like, I think Jamal expedited quite a bit of energy in the first half of this game just because he was amped up to go back to Canada and play a basketball game there. So, the first quarter was just sort of back and forth. Russell Westbrook missed a jumper in the first quarter, and Altitude TV rolled a stat out there. At least at that point, when he missed a jumper in the first quarter, he started 2 of 18 shooting on the season. Yikes. 2 of 18 shooting. Now, he did have a rebound a little bit back to the mean. He was 3 of 7 tonight. He hit 3 of his 4 free throws, so that's good to see, and finished with 9 points. But I liked Russell Westbrook's game more tonight because, like I said earlier, he played the style of basketball tonight that the Nuggets brought him here to play. Transition, offensive game, stout, physical, aggressive defense on that end of the floor. I talked about the incident with Scotty Barnes earlier in the game. I love to see that. And it's a classic case of you hate that dude if he's on the other team and you love him if he's on your team. Well, that's Russell Westbrook, everybody. So Nuggets fans, I hope you are prepared for the ups and downs and the roller coaster, the peaks and valleys that come with a guy like Russell Westbrook. I mean, we all knew this going into the season. This is no surprise. Russ is going to do things that are going to tick you off and annoy you, but then he's going to do things where, like we saw tonight, where he's getting into it with Scotty Barnes after a decently hard foul. I didn't think it was anything egregious. But it put a pep in the Nuggets' step. It did. It happened in the fourth quarter. The Nuggets were down by 8 at that point. And after that, they find a way to get the win. So, yeah, you take the good with the bad with Russell Westbrook. You just hope that there's more good than bad. All right, so Nikola Jokic tonight was phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And it was kind of weird in the first 2 games. Like, he didn't play bad in the first 2 games. He just wasn't Joker like we're used to seeing. I mean, he got a triple-double against the Clippers, or excuse me, against the Thunder. He was good. He was good in the first 2 games. He wasn't special Nikola that we're used to seeing. Well, we saw that tonight. Like, whatever that 2-game little stretch was, it always feels like Joker has like a 2 or 3 game stretch a season where you're just like, he doesn't look like Nikola Jokic. And then he puts up a stat line in a game like tonight, and you're like, oh, okay, there he is. He's back. Like, we're good. 44 minutes, 18 of 27 shooting from the field, 10 rebounds, only 4 assists, and 40 points. Now, Nikola's assists have been down through the first 3 games of the year. I think he's averaging like 4.5 assists through the first 3 games. Well, I attribute a lot of that to his teammates not making shots. So I don't think it's like a problem with Nikola Jokic distributing the basketball. His guys just aren't making any shots. So that's why his assist numbers are down. He's taken 12 3-point shot attempts on Saturday against the Clippers. He takes another 5 tonight. So it seems to me like Nikola Jokic he understands that the Nuggets are struggling on the offensive end of the floor right now, scoring the basketball. and he's just sort of taken it into his own hands and said, okay, I know I just got to score right now until we can kind of get this thing rolling. And that's what he's doing. But I'll tell you what, if anybody was even the slightest bit concerned about Nikola Jokic after the first 2 games, he put those fears to bed tonight, because he was absolutely spectacular in this game tonight. Again, what a thrilling overtime victory for the Nuggets. It was Jamal Murray at the end of the fourth quarter, after really kind of struggling throughout the game, gets the reverse side layup to tie it up at 114, send this thing into overtime. I thought the Nuggets did a phenomenal job to start that overtime. They went up by 8 points at one point in the game, kind of let them back in it, but they were and they were exhausted in overtime. Like, Jamal Murray specifically. I mean, Nikola Jokic was huffing and puffing, so was Aaron Gordon. These guys were absolutely exhausted, played huge minutes tonight. AG played 42 minutes, MPJ 39, Joker 44, Jamal 40, CB 40. And then your biggest, minutes off the bench was not Russell Westbrook. It was Julian Straw there at 22, but Russ did get a little bit of run there in the overtime. I think Malone wanted him for defense more than anything. But keep the comments coming. I'd love to show them. I want to get your thoughts on the Nuggets victory tonight over the Toronto Raptors. They improved to 1-2 on the year, and they really needed this victory. They go to Brooklyn tomorrow night, back-to-back, and you've got to wonder for tomorrow night's game how many minutes Coach Malone is going to play his starters. Overtime game tonight. They play big-time minutes. Dario Saric played 5 minutes tonight, everybody. Hey. What? He's supposed to be your backup center. He's supposed to be there so Joker doesn't have to play 44 minutes. I get it was an overtime game, but overtime's only 5 minutes. So Joker was at the 39-minute marker heading into overtime. I want to see Nikola Jokic around 32 minutes a game. Average on the season. Period. So that means Dario Saric is going to have to average close to 18 to 20 minutes a game. Well, he played 5 minutes tonight. Don't want to run your players into the ground? Got to have those guys step up. I mean, it's really that simple. They've got to be better so that the starters can not be run into the ground. Now, I've been kind of thinking about this a little bit. And if you listen to my last post-game show on here, we did address this a little bit. Do the Nuggets have a conditioning issue? Because I get these guys are playing huge minutes. I get last year into the second round, they were gassed. They just came off a long championship run, shortest offseason probably for any of them in their lives. But the Boston Celtics had a really short offseason this year. No issues so far, at least. I mean, they've come out of the gates on fire. I've just got to wonder, Nikola I'm not worried about, because I know what he does after every game. I mean, I'm telling you, he goes and lifts weights after every single game. He's probably in the gym right now at the Scotiabank Center, even though they've got to go through customs to get back into the U.S. I don't know if Jamal is as disciplined with his conditioning regimen as Nikola Jokic is. At least I've heard rumblings that he's not necessarily as dedicated to that part of his game as some of the other guys may be. Kind of looks like it tonight. Now, again, he gave you what you needed late in the game in the fourth quarter and had a couple of big plays in the overtime period. But man, we're 3 games into the season and Jamal's huffing and puffing, bent over the waist, and maybe he's working his way back into shape. I don't know. Maybe he looks fine midway through the season. Who knows? It's just with the way last year ended and what it's looked like so far to start the year, it's a little concerning. It is. But, great win for Denver tonight. Like I said, Jamal said to Kaz after the game, they didn't play well at all, and they probably shouldn't have won that game. I kind of tend to agree with him. They didn't play very well, at least for the first 3 quarters. Not very well at all. The Raptors were getting into the painted area whenever they wanted. They couldn't stop Scotty Barnes whatsoever throughout this game. And Scotty Barnes didn't play in the overtime either. He got poked in the eye, I think, by Jakob Poeltl late in the fourth quarter and did not play in the overtime. But something seems off with this team, at least for now, conditioning wise. It doesn't seem like they came into the season in the best of shape as a team. And Michael Malone said that in the preseason, our guys aren't in the best of shape. Now, can they work their way into that? Sure. But how long is that going to take? And what does the season look like until that happens? All right, let's go through some of the comments here. Mile High 303 says, I'm not shocked about Westbrook. I honestly think he is washed, and I don't trust any of the young guys. I wouldn't say Russ is washed. I knew this is who the Nuggets were getting when they signed Russell Westbrook. This is who Russ is, or at least it's who he's been for the last, 5-6 years. He's obviously not the Russell Westbrook of his MVP season. But if you look at Russell Westbrook over the last 4 or 5, 6 years, this is kind of who he's been. Okay? He's never been a good shooter. He's never going to be a great shooter. That's why I don't want him taking 3-point shots. I thought his game tonight was exactly what the Nuggets needed. Aggressive defense, being a dog on the defensive end, agitating the other team, and he was running like crazy in transition. He's still an athletic freak. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So, yeah, I don't know why any Nuggets fans would be surprised, at least what we've seen from Russell Westbrook so far this year. It's kind of who he is. Now, do I expect him to produce more than he has been in the first 2 games? Yeah, but honestly, the kind of game he had tonight, it's more or less what I'm expecting from Russ throughout the year. I'd like to see him average, 12 to 14 points a game. I think, and if he does that, that's exactly what Bruce Brown did a couple years ago. Now, he's not going to shoot the 3 ball as well, but he can damn sure play as good a defense as Bruce Brown. He can run the floor just as good as Bruce Brown can. The only difference for me with Bruce Brown and Russell Westbrook is their shooting ability. So, but Russ is never going to be a great shooter. So I don't know why any Nuggets fans are surprised by his poor shooting stats so far to start the year. All right, let's go through some more of the comments here. Let's see here. Is the Avs 5 to go stream going? I don't know. DMAC should have that up. In fact, let me check in. What is the score of the Avalanche game here real quick? I saw they were down 3-2 at the end of the second period. They lose 5-2 to Chicago. Dang. Yep, tough break. Georgie in net tonight, giving up a lot of goals. Gave up 3 goals in the first period. So, tough night again for Georgie and the Avs. But Nathan McKinnon, Casey Middlestat get goals for the Avs. But the Nuggets get their first victory of the season. They beat the Toronto Raptors 127 to 125 in this one. Pants Party, you're back. I love the name. The bench makes me physically cringe whenever they sub in. I'm with you. Okay. And that's kind of my larger point for really this team as the season goes along. I can't make it any more clear. The bench has to be better. They just have to be. Peyton Watson, got to be better. I mean, he has not been good to start the year. Now, Peyton Watson didn't play in the preseason. He was dealing with a hamstring injury, so I'll give him a little bit of grace there. Maybe that's still affecting him, or he's just kind of shaking off the rust from not playing in the preseason and not doing a whole lot in training camp. So I'm willing to give Peyton Watson a little bit of grace, but man, it was when Peyton Watson first kind of got on this team in the championship year, he had some really good moments for this team. And we have yet to see really any of that so far this year for Peyton Watson, except on the defensive end. He's had a couple of really good defensive plays. But they need to get it together quick. I mean, the bench unit tonight, let's see here. Strother had 9, Russ had 9, Peyton Watson had 6, Dario had 0. It's not good enough. And I get they got the win tonight, but they won by 2 in overtime because the starters played, the last 6, 7, 8 minutes of the fourth quarter and all of overtime, minus a sub here and there for Russ and MPJ for defensive purposes. And Michael Porter Jr., he's just got to be better, plain and simple. He has not provided this team what they need so far this season. He's not shooting the 3 ball well. 13 points for Mike tonight, it's not going to cut it. He needs to get at least 20 points a game. He needs to average 20 points a game this season if this team has any realistic chance, in my opinion, of making another finals run. So with the way the salary cap is set up, the guys you're paying and the young guys you draft, they have to produce. And if they don't, it's going to be really, really tough to get back to the finals. But hey, good win for the Nuggets tonight. They needed it bad just for, I think, the psyche of that team, the psyche and the morale of the fan base. It's kind of weird seeing like people freak out over just 2 losses. And I get it was at the beginning of the season, but I kind of get it because it does feel a little different this year with the new guys and the sort of kind of unknown of what you're getting from guys like Russ, Dario Saric, Michael Porter Jr. Another big question mark though was Christian Braun, and I think he's been, other than Joker, he's been their second best player on the team, at least through the first 3 games of the season. So that is a big positive sign. Christian Braun has come in and fill KCP's role very, very well. So we'll see if he can keep that going throughout the year. He just needs to keep knocking down the open threes. I'm not saying Christian Braun has to be a lights out 3-point shooter by any means, but when he's open, when he gets those open corner threes, he's got to knock them down. Like those are the ones he has to hit in those moments. So, hey, really appreciate everybody. Nuggets get back at it tomorrow night in Brooklyn. They're probably getting close to boarding the plane now if Nikola is not in the weight room. So we'll do this again tomorrow night. Again, hit me up on Twitter at DanTanner091 if you want to tweet at me during the games, comments, questions, concerns, anything you want to talk about. Feel free to reach me there or just hop on the comment stream here, and I will be happy to share those with everybody watching, because this show is as much part of everything as you guys are. You're all a part of the show as much as I am. So we really appreciate it. And we will be back tomorrow night for another edition of In the Paint, but the Nuggets get the 127-125 victory over the Raptors to get their first win on the season. We will see you all tomorrow night.